"Mother, let me have him." The alien princess made her wish. Clear Captain Marcus Chen stared out the viewport of the diplomatic shuttle as it approached the crystal spires of Valthara Prime. The entire planet seemed to glow with a soft blue light, its cities built from materials that looked like living gemstones. After 3 months of space travel, he was finally here on humanity's most important diplomatic mission. "Remember, Captain," said Ambassador Williams through the comm system, "these people value tradition and respect above all else. Don't do anything that might upset them. We need this trade agreement." Marcus adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform and checked his translation device one more time. Humanity desperately needed the rare minerals that the Valthara Empire controlled. Without them, human colonies on the outer rim would struggle to expand and grow. The shuttle landed on a platform made of smooth, pearl-colored stone. As Marcus stepped out, he felt the slightly heavier gravity pull at his shoulders. The air smelled like flowers and metal mixed together. 3 tall figures waited for him at the platform's edge. The Valthara were beautiful in a way that seemed almost unreal. They stood nearly 7 feet tall with pale blue skin that had a slight shimmer to it. Their faces were elegant and sharp, with large eyes that changed color depending on the light. They wore flowing robes that seemed to move even when there was no wind. "Welcome, human representative," said the center figure in a voice that sounded like music. "I am High Chamberlain Kethmore. The Empress awaits your presence." Marcus bowed respectfully, but not too deeply. He had studied their customs carefully. "Thank you for welcoming me to your beautiful world. I am Captain Marcus Chen, representing the United Human Colonies." The High Chamberlain's eyebrows raised slightly. Most alien visitors seemed nervous or afraid when they first arrived. This human seemed calm and genuinely interested in his surroundings. They walked through corridors that looked like they were carved from solid crystal. Everything was perfectly clean and beautiful. Other Valthara they passed moved silently, bowing low when they saw the High Chamberlain. Marcus noticed that servants and workers kept their eyes down and never spoke unless spoken to. "Your palace is amazing," Marcus said to one of the servants carrying a tray of glowing fruits. "Those look delicious. Are they grown here on the planet?" Servant looked shocked that someone had spoken directly to her. She glanced nervously at the High Chamberlain before whispering, "Yes, honored guest, they grow in the crystal gardens. That's fascinating. The way you combine technology and nature here is really impressive." The High Chamberlain stopped walking and stared at Marcus. In all his centuries of service, he had never seen a visiting dignitary speak to a servant as if they were equals. Most aliens either ignored the servants completely or treated them like furniture. They continued through the palace until they reached enormous doors decorated with swirling patterns that seemed to move and change. The throne room beyond was huge, with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadows. At the far end sat the Empress on a throne made of what looked like frozen starlight. Empress Velandra was ancient even by Valthara standards, but she looked ageless and powerful. Her silver hair flowed like liquid metal, and her eyes were the deep purple of space between stars. Beside her stood a younger Valthara, who could only be Princess Zarathis. The princess was different from the others Marcus had seen. While they all had that same perfect, distant beauty, something in her eyes seemed more alive, more curious. She watched Marcus approach with obvious interest. "Your Imperial Majesty," Marcus said, bowing appropriately. "I bring greetings from the United Human Colonies and hope for friendship between our peoples." "Approach, human," the Empress said. Her voice filled the entire room without seeming loud. "We have heard much about your species. You are young and spread quickly across the stars. Some say too quickly." Marcus stepped forward. Around the throne room, other alien ambassadors watched from the sides. He recognized delegations from the Chronic Federation and the hegemony of suns. They all seemed to shrink back when the Empress spoke, but Marcus stood straight and met her gaze. "We expand. Because we're curious, Your Majesty. We want to learn and grow and meet new friends among the stars. We're not trying to take anything from anyone. We just want to build something better together." Princess Zarathis tilted her head, studying this strange human more carefully. Most visitors spoke in formal, flowery language full of compliments and fear. This human spoke simply and directly, as if he truly meant what he said. "And what do humans offer in return for our precious minerals?" the Empress asked. "We offer friendship, knowledge, and protection," Marcus replied. "Humans are good at solving problems in new ways. We're also very loyal to our friends. When someone helps us, we remember it." The Chronic ambassador whispered something that sounded mocking to his companion. Marcus heard it and turned toward them. "I'm sorry, did you have something to add to our discussion?" Marcus asked, politely but firmly. The Chronic ambassador's 4 eyes widened in shock. No one ever challenged another diplomat in the Empress's presence. The throne room became completely silent. I was merely observing that. "Humans make many promises," the Chronic said nervously. "That's true," Marcus agreed with a smile. "And we keep them. That's what makes us different from some species." Princess Zarathis found herself leaning forward in her chair. This human was either very brave or very foolish, most likely both. But there was something refreshing about his directness. He didn't grovel or make empty flattery. He spoke like he believed what he said. The Empress studied Marcus for a long moment. "You are not like other ambassadors who have come before us, human." "I hope that's a good thing, Your Majesty." "We shall see." The Empress gestured to the High Chamberlain. "Prepare quarters for our guests. Tomorrow we will hear formal presentations from all who seek our favor." As the various diplomatic parties began to leave, Princess Zarathis caught her mother's arm and whispered urgently in their native language. The Empress looked surprised, then intrigued. "Daughter, are you certain?" "Yes, Mother. There is something different about this one, something authentic." The Empress watched Marcus's retreating figure as he thanked the servants who guided him out, treating them with the same respect he had shown her. "Very well," the Empress said quietly. "We shall observe this human more closely." Princess Zarathis smiled for the first time in months. "Mother," she said, her voice filled with a determination that surprised them both, "let me have him." The words hung in the air like a challenge to the universe itself. The diplomatic mission had begun, but something much more significant was about to unfold. Marcus woke in his crystal chamber as artificial sunlight filtered through the walls. The room was beautiful but cold, like staying inside a perfect ice sculpture. He had spent the night reading about Valthara customs, trying to understand what made them tick. A soft chime announced a visitor. High Chamberlain Kethmore entered with 3 servants carrying breakfast. "The Empress requests your presence in the Hall of Wisdom," Kethmore said. "You will be tested." "Tested how?" Marcus asked, accepting a cup of something that tasted like honey and starlight. "The Empress wishes to understand human capabilities. Other ambassadors have already begun." Marcus nodded and followed the High Chamberlain through corridors filled with floating crystal displays. They showed images of the Valthara Empire's history, thousands of years of perfect order and beauty. The Hall of Wisdom was a massive room with walls covered in moving equations and star charts. The Chronic ambassador stood before a complex puzzle made of light and mathematics. Sweat dripped from his 4 eyes as he struggled to solve it. "The puzzle of infinite paths," whispered another diplomat. "It has stumped scholars for centuries." Marcus watched the Chronic work. The alien was trying to follow traditional mathematical rules, approaching the problem step by step. After an hour, he collapsed in failure. Human, the Empress called. Your turn. Marcus stepped forward and studied the floating puzzle. Numbers and symbols danced in the air, forming patterns that seemed to have no solution. Every path led to a dead end. Interesting, Marcus said out loud. This isn't really a math problem, is it? Princess Zarathis sat beside her mother's throne, watching intently. This human looked relaxed, almost amused. What do you mean? The Empress asked. Well, if you follow the rules of mathematics, there's no solution. But life isn't always about following rules perfectly. Marcus reached into the light display and did something unexpected. He connected two paths that weren't supposed to touch. The puzzle flashed red. Incorrect methodology, announced a voice. Maybe, Marcus said with a grin, but it works. He continued making connections that broke traditional rules but created new possibilities. Slowly, the impossible puzzle began to solve itself. The light display turned from red to gold. The hall fell silent. Princess Zarathis leaned forward, her eyes wide with amazement. How? The Empress demanded. Sometimes you have to think outside the system, Marcus explained. Humans are good at that. We don't always follow the rules, but we get results. The second test was physical. In the arena of endurance, ambassadors had to survive increasingly difficult challenges. The representative from the hegemony of suns lasted 2 hours before exhaustion forced him to quit. Marcus faced the same obstacles, gravity that changed. Without warning, platforms that vanished under his feet, walls of energy that burned if touched. But where others fought against the challenges, Marcus seemed to dance with them. When gravity reversed, he used the momentum to reach higher platforms. When energy walls appeared, he found gaps others missed. When the floor became liquid, he learned to swim through it instead of fighting it. He adapts, Princess Zarathis whispered to her mother. Watch how quickly he learns. 4 hours passed. Marcus was tired and sweating, but he kept going. The arena kept making new challenges, but he kept finding new solutions. Finally, the Empress called for the test to stop. Enough. We have seen what we needed to see. That evening, Princess Zarathis found Marcus in the palace gardens. He sat beside a fountain, feeding small flying creatures that looked like tiny dragons. They like you, she said, sitting on a nearby bench. They're beautiful. Are they pets? Wild creatures. They usually hide from strangers. She watched as one of the dragon creatures landed on Marcus's shoulder. You are very different from other diplomats. How so? They come here afraid. They want something from us, so they tell us what they think we want to hear. You speak truth. Marcus smiled. My grandmother always said that lies are too hard to remember. Better to just be honest. Your grandmother? You speak of family often. Family is important to humans, not just blood family. We make families from friends, teammates, anyone we care about. Princess Zarathis tilted her head. Make families? Yeah, like the crew of my ship. They're my family now. We look out for each other, celebrate together, mourn together. It doesn't matter that we're not related. This concept puzzled the princess. Valthara families were based on bloodlines and status. The idea of choosing your family was strange and wonderful. Tell me more about human customs, she said. They talked until the crystal moon rose overhead. Marcus told her about human holidays, about how they celebrated differences instead of hiding them, about their belief that everyone could grow and change. You mean a servant could become a leader? She asked. Of course. Where I come from, the president was once a farmer's daughter. Our greatest scientist used to clean floors. We believe people should be judged by their actions, not their birth. Princess Zarathis was quiet for a long time. In Valthara society, everyone had their place from birth. Change was not encouraged. The third test came the next day, the trial of character. Ambassadors were presented with moral dilemmas and asked to choose. A ship is sinking, the test began. You can save either the captain or 5 passengers. Choose. The other ambassadors gave careful diplomatic answers about duty and logic. When Marcus's turn came, he said, "I'd try to save everyone." "That is not an option," the voice said. "Then I'd make it an option. Humans don't accept no-win scenarios. We change the rules." "How would you save everyone?" Marcus thought for a moment. "First, I'd help the passengers work together to keep the ship floating longer. Then I'd signal for help while someone else helped the captain. If that didn't work, I'd look for materials to build a raft. There's always another way if you're creative enough." The Empress exchanged glances with her daughter. This human refused to accept that sacrifice was necessary. More scenarios followed. Each time, Marcus found ways to help everyone instead of choosing sides. He talked about compromise, cooperation, and creative solutions. After the tests, Princess Zarathis approached her mother privately. "He is remarkable," she said. "He is stubborn," the Empress replied. "He refuses to accept reality. Or maybe he sees possibilities we miss." The princess looked out toward the gardens where Marcus was again feeding the dragon creatures. "Mother, our people have been the same. For thousands of years, we never change, never grow. Look at him. He makes friends with wild animals, solves impossible puzzles, treats servants like equals. He shows us what we could become." The Empress studied her daughter carefully. "You are not simply attracted to him. You are attracted to what he represents. Yes, change, growth, hope." Princess Zarathis met her mother's eyes. "I want to learn from him. I want our people to learn from him." "And if he leaves? Then we will have missed the greatest opportunity in our history." The Empress was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. "Very well, daughter. Let us see what this human can truly do." The real test was about to begin. 3 days after the tests ended, Marcus was summoned to the Empress's private chambers. Unlike the grand throne room, this space felt more personal. Books floated in the air and star maps covered the walls. The Empress sat at a simple crystal desk, looking tired and thoughtful. "Sit, human," she said, gesturing to a chair across from her. Marcus sat down, noticing that Princess Zarathis stood by the window, her back turned to them. "Your test's results were unusual," the Empress began. "In 3,000 years, no one has solved the puzzle of infinite paths the way you did. No one has lasted 4 hours in the arena of endurance, and no one has refused to accept the moral dilemmas as presented." "I just did what felt right," Marcus said honestly. "That is exactly what disturbs me." The Empress leaned forward. "You see, Captain Chen, I have been watching your species for some time. Humans spread across the galaxy faster than any race in recorded history. In just 2 centuries, you have established colonies on hundreds of worlds." Marcus waited, sensing there was more coming. Other species take thousands of years to expand so far. Some never leave their home systems. But humans, you adapt, you change, you find ways to survive anywhere. It should be impossible. "We're stubborn, I guess," Marcus said with a small smile. "No, you are something else entirely." The Empress stood and walked to a wall display showing human colonies. "You make families from strangers. You solve problems by ignoring the rules. You refuse to accept defeat. These are not normal traits." Princess Zarathis finally turned around. Her eyes were sad but determined. "My daughter believes you could teach us these traits," the Empress continued. "She thinks our people could learn from humans. She has asked me to make you an offer." Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. "What kind of offer?" The Empress touched a control, and the room filled with images of Valthara cities, art, and technology. Stay here as my daughter's consort. Help us understand human adaptability. Teach us your ways. In return, you will have wealth, status, and the knowledge of our entire civilization. The images were beautiful and tempting. Marcus could see himself, learning their advanced science, exploring their culture, maybe even helping them grow and change. And if I stay, what happens to the trade agreement? Your people will have unlimited access to our minerals and technology. Humanity will prosper beyond your wildest dreams. Marcus looked at Princess Zarathis. She was watching him with hope, and fear mixed in her expression. And if I refuse, then you complete your diplomatic mission and leave forever. The trade agreement will be limited. Enough minerals for your current colonies, but no more. Humanity's expansion will slow. The choice seemed impossible. Stay and help both species prosper, or leave and limit humanity's future. Marcus was quiet, for a long time thinking. There's a third option, he said finally. The Empress raised an eyebrow. Oh? You're thinking about this all wrong. You want to learn human traits, but you're trying to do it through marriage and possession. That's not how humans work. Marcus stood up and walked to the star map showing both human and Valthara space. What if we created a real partnership? Not marriage, not conquest, but cooperation. Exchange programs where young humans and Valthara live and learn together. Joint colonies where both species work side by side. Trade that benefits everyone equally. Impossible, the Empress said immediately. Our species are too different, are we? Marcus touched the wall display, showing images of both species. We both explore space. We both create art and music. We both care about our families. We both want to grow and learn. The differences are just on the surface. Princess Zarathis stepped forward. He is right, Mother. I have learned more about growth and change in 3 days with him than in 3 centuries of our traditional education. You are young and foolish, the Empress snapped. This human has filled your head with impossible dreams. No, Marcus said firmly but respectfully. She's filled her own head with possibilities. That's what humans do. We see what could be, not just what is. The Empress turned away, frustrated. Even if such a thing were possible, our people would never accept it. We have been pure and separate for millennia. Your people are dying, Marcus said quietly. The room went completely silent. What did you say? The Empress whispered. Marcus brought up data he had noticed in the palace systems. Your birth rates are dropping. Your innovation has stopped. Your art hasn't changed in centuries. You've achieved perfection, but perfection can't grow or adapt. When the universe changes, you won't be able to change with it. The princess stared at the data displays. Is this true, Mother? The Empress aged years in that moment. Yes, our perfect society is slowly dying. That is why I wanted to understand human adaptability. Then let me show you, Marcus said, but not through marriage or force, through friendship and choice. He walked to the center of the room. There's a problem in your capital city, isn't there? The old water systems are failing and your engineers can't fix them without disrupting the crystal structures. The Empress nodded, surprised that he knew. Let me help. Not as a consort or a prisoner, but as a friend. Give me access to your technical data and a team of volunteers. I'll show you how human problem-solving works. And if you fail, then I'll complete my diplomatic mission and leave. But if I succeed, you'll consider the partnership I'm proposing. Princess Zarathis looked at her mother hopefully. Please, what do we have to lose? The Empress was quiet for several minutes, studying Marcus. Finally, she nodded. Very well. You have 1 week. But understand this. If you fail, my daughters, feelings will not protect you. You will leave and never return. Understood, Marcus said. But I won't fail. How can you be so certain? Marcus smiled. Because I won't be working alone. The best human solutions come from teams, not individuals. And I have a feeling some of your people are ready to try something new. That evening, Marcus met with Princess Zarathis in the gardens again. Are you angry that I didn't accept your mother's offer? He asked. She was quiet for a moment, feeding the tiny dragon creatures. At first, yes. I wanted you to stay. And now? Now I understand that you gave me something better than staying. You gave me hope that we can both grow and change together, as equals. She looked at him with new respect. You showed me that true partnership cannot be owned or possessed. Marcus nodded. The best relationships, whether friendship, family, or something more, happen when both people choose to be there. Then let us choose to work together, she said. Show me how humans solve impossible problems. As they walked back toward the palace, Marcus felt excited about the challenge ahead. He had 1 week to prove that cooperation was better than possession, that growth was better than perfection. The real test was just beginning. Marcus stood in the crystal engineering chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing the failing water systems. Chief Engineer Valthara, an elderly Valthara with silver markings on his blue skin, looked skeptical. The conduits have failed 17 times in the past century, Valthara explained. Each time we repair them, they fail again within months. The crystal resonance interferes with any new materials we try to use. Marcus studied the three-dimensional maps floating around him. The water system was incredibly complex, designed to work perfectly with the crystal structures of the city. But that perfection had become its weakness. What if we stop fighting the crystals and start working with them? Marcus suggested. Impossible. The resonance frequencies are too unstable. Or maybe too stable. Marcus called up more data. You've been trying to force the water to flow against the natural crystal harmonics. What if we made the water flow with them instead? Princess Zarathis entered the chamber with 3 junior engineers. She had volunteered to help, despite her mother's concerns about royal dignity. These engineers want to join the project, she announced. They are young and interested in new ideas. Valthara frowned. Your Highness, this is not appropriate. Work for royalty. Since when is helping our people inappropriate? She replied firmly. If this human can solve our problems, I want to learn how. Marcus smiled at her determination. All right, team, let's start by mapping the crystal resonance patterns, not as obstacles to overcome, but as tools to use. For the next 3 days, they worked together in ways that surprised everyone. Marcus didn't act like a leader giving orders. Instead, he asked questions and listened to answers. He treated the junior engineers' ideas with the same respect as the chief engineer's experience. What if we created a flow pattern that follows the crystal harmonics? Suggested Kirillin, the youngest engineer. That could work, Marcus said excitedly. The water would strengthen the crystals instead of fighting them. Valthara shook his head. Young lady, such a system would require precise timing down to microseconds. It cannot be done. Actually, Marcus said, humans have experience with complex timing systems. We use them in our starships. Kirillin, what if we combined your harmonic flow idea with dynamic adjustment protocols? Princess Zarathis watched in fascination as Marcus helped the young engineer develop her idea. In traditional Valthara society, junior members never spoke unless asked. But Marcus encouraged everyone to contribute. By the 4th day, they had a theoretical solution. But testing it would require shutting down water to an entire district of the city. Too dangerous, Valthara declared. If it fails, thousands of people will be without water. Then we test it small first, Marcus said. Start with 1 building, then expand if it works. You don't understand, the chief engineer said impatiently. The crystal matrix is connected. You cannot isolate one part without affecting the whole system. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then his eyes lit up. What if that's the answer? What do you mean? Princess Zarathis asked. You're thinking about this as separate buildings and separate systems. But what if we treated the entire city as one living organism? The crystals are already connected. What if we made the water system work like circulation in a body? The engineering team stared at him. This was completely different from how they had always approached problems. Impossible, Velthok said, automatically. Let's find out, Marcus replied. Kirillin, can you model what would happen if we treated the whole city as a single system? The young engineer's eyes shone with excitement. Yes, if we synchronize all the flows to work together, the resonance would stabilize instead of fighting itself, finished another junior engineer. Princess Zarathis felt a thrill of understanding. This was what Marcus had been talking about. Cooperation instead of competition, systems working together instead of against each other. On the 5th day, they presented their solution to the Empress. The throne room was packed with curious nobles and skeptical engineers. You propose to redesign our entire water system in 2 days? The Empress asked. Not redesign, Marcus corrected. Harmonize. The system you have is brilliant. We're just going to help it sing in tune. Chief Engineer Velthok stepped forward. Your Majesty, I must protest. This approach is untested and dangerous. So was building your city in the first place, Marcus pointed out gently. Every great achievement starts with someone willing to try something new. The Empress looked at her daughter. What do you think, Zarathis? I think we should trust the people who found a solution when others saw only problems, the princess replied. I think we should be brave enough to grow. The Empress was quiet for a long moment. Very well. You have permission to implement your solution, but if it fails, it won't fail, Marcus said confidently, because we're not doing this alone. The next 2 days were intense. Marcus and his team worked around the clock, coordinating with maintenance crews throughout the city. But something amazing happened. Other Valthara began volunteering to help. Servants who usually remained invisible offered insights about water flow in different districts. Artists contributed ideas about harmonic patterns. Even children shared observations about how the crystals behaved during different seasons. Princess Zarathis found herself working alongside people she had never spoken to before. She helped coordinate teams, solved supply problems, and learned more about her own city than she had in centuries of royal life. This is what you meant about chosen families, she said to Marcus during a brief rest. Yeah, look around. Everyone here chose to be part of something bigger than themselves. On the 7th day, they activated the new system. The entire city held its breath as water began flowing through the redesigned network. At first, nothing seemed different. Then, slowly, the crystal structures began to glow brighter. The harmonic frequencies that had been fighting each other for centuries began to synchronize. The city itself started to sing, a low, beautiful tone that resonated through every building. The water flowed smoothly, efficiently, and in perfect harmony with the crystal matrix. The system that had failed 17 times was now stronger than it had ever been. The crowd in the central plaza erupted in celebration. For the first time in generations, the city was working as it was truly meant to work. But Marcus barely noticed the celebration. He was watching Princess Zarathis as she hugged Kirillin and congratulated the other engineers. She was glowing with joy and pride, not in him, but in what they had all accomplished together. The Empress appeared beside him, her expression unreadable. You have succeeded beyond my expectations, she said quietly. We succeeded, Marcus corrected. Your people did the work. I just helped them see what was possible. And in doing so, you have changed everything. The Empress looked out at the celebrating crowd where nobles and servants worked side by side. My daughter will never be content with our old ways again. Is that a bad thing? The Empress smiled for the first time since Marcus had arrived. Perhaps not. Perhaps it is exactly what we needed. As the Crystal City sang its new song, Marcus realized that the real test had never been about fixing the water system. It had been about proving that different species could work together as equals, creating something beautiful that neither could have achieved alone. The final challenge was still to come, but Marcus felt ready for whatever it might be. 1 month after the water system success, Marcus stood in the same throne room where his journey had begun, but everything felt different now. The formal barriers between nobles and servants had softened. Young Valthara engineers worked openly, with maintenance crews. The Crystal City hummed with new energy and collaboration. The Empress sat on her throne, but Princess Zarathis stood beside her as an equal rather than a subordinate. Other members of the royal court were present, along with representatives from various districts of the city. Captain Marcus Chen, the Empress began formally, you have completed your task and exceeded all expectations. The question now is what comes next. Marcus nodded respectfully. Your Majesty, I believe that question should be answered by your, people, not by me. Speak plainly, human. What do you mean? I mean that change can't be forced from the outside. It has to be chosen from within. Marcus gestured toward the mixed crowd in the throne room. Your people have already started choosing. Look around. The Empress followed his gaze. Noble families were talking with engineers about city improvements. Servants offered suggestions without fear. Young Valthara discussed new ideas with enthusiasm instead of staying silent. This is not how things were done before, the Empress observed. No, Princess Zarathis said softly. It's better than how things were done before. High Chamberlain. Kethmore stepped forward. Your Majesty, if I may speak freely? The Empress nodded, surprised. In all his centuries of service, Kethmore had never asked to speak freely. The changes we have seen in the past month are remarkable. Our people are happier, more creative, more engaged with their work. The city itself functions better. Perhaps it is time for our society to grow. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Marcus was amazed to see how many Valthara supported the idea of change. Chief Engineer Velthok, who had been skeptical at first, cleared his throat. Your Majesty, the junior engineers have presented 17 new ideas for city improvements. Since working with the human, 17, we had not seen one new idea in the previous century. Young Kiralin stepped forward boldly. Your Majesty, working with Captain Chen taught us that our ideas matter, that we can contribute to something larger than ourselves. We don't want to go back to the old ways. The Empress looked at her daughter. And you, Zarathis? What do you want? Princess Zarathis straightened her shoulders. I want to build something new, Mother, not just for our people, but with other species. I want to explore the galaxy and learn from others the way we learned from Captain Chen. Even if it means leaving our perfect society. Our society was never perfect, the princess said gently. It was just afraid to admit it could be better. Marcus watched this exchange with deep respect. The princess had grown so much in just 1 month. She was no longer asking for permission. She was choosing her own path. The Empress stood and walked to the great windows overlooking the city. The crystal spires glowed with warm light, and the sound of the harmonized water system created a gentle background music. You know, she said thoughtfully, I have been Empress for over 2,000 years. In all that time, I believed my duty was to preserve our traditions and keep our people safe from change. She turned back to face the room. But watching this past month, I have learned something important. Safety that prevents growth is not safety at all. It is a slow death. Marcus felt his heart racing. This was the moment everything would be decided. Therefore, the Empress continued, I am announcing a new policy. The Valthara Empire will establish a formal alliance with the United Human Colonies, not as master and servant, but as equals and partners. The throne room erupted in excited chatter. Marcus felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Furthermore, the Empress said, raising her hand for quiet, we will establish exchange programs between our species. Young Valthara will live and study in human space, and young humans will do the same here. Princess Zarathis smiled widely. And I volunteer to be the first Valthara ambassador to human space. Absolutely not, the Empress said firmly. The princess's face fell. Marcus felt his heart sink. You will not be the first ambassador, the Empress continued with a slight smile. You will be the first Valthara to join a human exploration mission as an equal partner. If you are going to represent our people among the stars, you should understand how humans really work. Princess Zarathis gasped in delight and hugged her mother, forgetting all royal protocol. Marcus stepped forward. Your Majesty, this is more than I ever hoped for. Our colonies will welcome Valthara partners and friends. There is one more thing, the Empress said, looking directly at Marcus. My daughter once asked me to let her have you. I refused, then because I misunderstood what she meant. She walked over to Princess Zarathis. I now realize she did not want to possess you, Captain Chen. She wanted to learn from you, to grow because of knowing you, to become better by choosing to work with you. The princess nodded, tears in her eyes. Yes, Mother, that's exactly what I meant. Then you have my blessing to forge whatever relationship you choose, as friends, partners, or something more, but it will be your choice. Made freely. Marcus looked at Princess Zarathis and saw in her eyes the same sense of possibility and adventure that drove humans to explore the stars. So, he said with a grin, want to see what's beyond your crystal cities? More than anything, she replied. 6 months later, Marcus stood on the bridge of the exploration ship New Horizons. Beside him, Princess Zarathis, now simply called Zara by the crew, studied star charts with the same enthusiasm she had once shown for engineering problems. Next system shows signs of unusual energy readings, reported the ship's science officer. Could be natural phenomena, said the navigation officer. Or could be something amazing we've never seen before, Zara added with excitement. Marcus smiled. The princess had adapted to human exploration culture perfectly. She brought Valthara patience and long-term thinking to balance human curiosity and risk-taking. Set course for the anomaly, Marcus ordered. Let's see what's out there. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, Marcus reflected on how much had changed. The trade agreement had evolved into a full alliance. Human and Valthara colonies were being established together. Young people from both species were learning from each other. But the biggest change was standing right beside him. Zara was no longer the sheltered princess who had asked her mother to let her have him. She was an explorer, a diplomat, and a partner who had chosen her own destiny among the stars. What are you thinking about? Zara asked, noticing his contemplative mood. Just wondering what we'll discover next, Marcus replied. Whatever it is, Zara said with confidence, we'll figure it out together. The ship raced toward unknown stars, carrying 2 species who had learned that the best partnerships weren't about possession or control, but about choosing to grow together, to explore together, and to build something greater than either could achieve alone. In the end, the princess had gotten exactly what she wanted. Not to have Marcus, but to have the chance to become everything she was meant to be.